Welcome back to the balance sheet, where we're going to talk about all things women's wrestling. We're going to give you this week a two-part bonanza. We have so much content to cover. Obviously, it's WrestleMania weekend. We last night got night one of WrestleMania. We got two women's matches that we will get to here shortly. We also did this week have arguably women's match of the year that happened on AEW TV on Wednesday night, a dream match between Mercedes and Athena. So we are definitely going to review that and the brilliance that was. But we're going to start not in the ring this week. We're going to start with something that happened before WrestleMania kicked off yesterday that has the internet buzzing and a certain fan base, and I'm going to name them for this episode the Bayhive, not the Beehive, the Bayhive, as in BAY dash hive, angry. Because what happened, and I'm going to set the stage and hand it over to my colleague here. Bayley was injured backstage. And this now means Lyra has to get a mystery partner for tonight to challenge for the women's tag team titles. Now, obviously, I am not surprised by this because I predicted this. I have been predicting this, that the only reason this whole thing with Bayley had any logic to it, which is bad logic, by the way, but still logic, is that this is a setup for the presumable return of one of the biggest women's wrestling stars of all time. And depending on how that return shakes out on part two, you will get our thoughts on that return. But what we want to cover, and I'm going to hand it over to you, sir, is what seems to be the constant roller coaster of Bayley's career in this company of respect, disrespect, respect, disrespect. We had the respect of Brooklyn going into her main roster where she was arguably the hottest woman wrestler in the world, to winning the title, retaining it at Mania, to immediately being almost shovel buried by Alexa Bliss because Alexa got a little hotter. Let's beat her in her hometown. Let's make her look
This is your life.
terrible. This is your life. Make her look awful. For years of just kind of going nowhere. And then all of a sudden she wins Money in the Bank, immediately gets vaulted back up to the top, huge baby face, super over, beats Charlotte, then goes back to then with the returning Sasha Banks, turns heel, which was brilliant. Golden role models, some of the most brilliant television WWE has ever produced for content. A whole year storyline, finally culminating with her losing to Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell. She was white hot. Kind of meddled, kind of lost to Sasha, put Bianca over, hosted WrestleMania, was left off the card inexplicably at 37, and then got injured. Gone for a whole year. Brought back as a heel with a new faction, Damage Control. At first, didn't really go well, but then, boy, did it start to get hot. Io wins the title. Bayley clearly was going to be the odd person out of this group, leading to her winning, in my opinion, one of the best women's Royal Rumbles of all time. And then her culminating with a classic match with Io at WrestleMania, one of the all-time best women's matches at Mania. Huge pop, super over, wins the belt. Great. And then again, back to the Bayley booking of she wins the title and they don't know what to do with her. She loses to Nia Jax. And let's be honest, from that point on, she has never really been the same as a character. She's been in and out of weird feuds to the point now where she is being written off Mania, the biggest show of the year. And clearly her fan base, which, let me set the record, you are a huge part of. You've always been a huge Bayley fan. You've met her in person.
Yep.
You support her throughout. You even gave her a shirt, I believe. And people are mad. So sir. The floor is yours. It's all yours.
It is a roller coaster. And it's funny is sometimes you go on, Twitter and you say someone hasn't been booked well, and they always go, well, what about the time this and what about the time this? And I think, as we advocate for women's wrestling, what we try to look at is how the women are treated as compared to the men. And Bayley is a first ballot in the sports world. They don't have ballots in WWE. They have, a couple people that make the decision. Bayley is a first ballot Hall of Famer. With the new rules about having matches in the Hall of Fame, Bayley is probably a 3-time Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. As herself, as a tag team with Sasha Banks, and for the match on the wall above me. Those 3 entities deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. 4 Horsewomen could be in the Hall of Fame too. They were never on TV together, but as a impact to the business faction, absolutely. So she's a legend, like at the highest order. She really is.
Hmm.
They don't treat their men's legends like this. They don't. And the point I'm making on this is it's almost an embarrassment ritual what they're going through with her. It's not just that she's not on the Mania card. It's that she's been put in and stopped and in and stopped on different feuds. They worked a Roxanne Bayley feud for a couple months and easily could have culminated here at Mania. And by the way, Roxanne didn't have anything special to do on Stand and Deliver. In fact, fought for a match that she walked out of. So almost mirror image, Roxanne's booking has been just as bad. And it makes you wonder that they got pretty deep into Mania with maybe the 2 of them on a collision course, and then they changed it for whatever reason, which it seems like we're finding out now. They put Bayley in this match, in this tag match with Lyra, which didn't make sense to begin with, right? They fought each other for the Intercontinental title 2 weeks ago. But they got her on the card. And the reporting is that they've always known she wasn't going to be on the card. This was never her on the card in actuality. And it kind of breaks my heart. She's such a good soldier. And if you go back and look at how hard she sold this match, how much press she did for WrestleMania, how much she sold the teaming up with Lyra. They did photo shoots and she knew the whole time she wasn't going to be on the card. That's why I feel like it's almost like an embarrassment ritual where they know that she's such a good soldier that she'd do it. And it's messed up. And it's kind of a slap in the face to, I think, women's wrestling fans and specifically the Bay Hive, as you call it, Bayley fans. And they just don't treat men's legends this way. And there's no reason why Bayley shouldn't have been on this card. Bayley Roxanne easily could have been on this card and probably wasn't, because there was probably a dude backstage that was like, well, we already got 1 women's non-title match. We can't really have 2. And that's real. And that's why we talk about stuff like this on the show is women are still trying to stretch out and make room for themselves in this wrestling world that they deserve. And I even would be less mad if they had Roxanne and Bayley on the Stand and Deliver card. At least they wrestled on WrestleMania weekend, and you could have added Bayley to elevate that card. If you always knew she wasn't wrestling on WrestleMania, that would have been the right thing to do. There are some rumors as to who is replacing her. We are going to film the second part of this episode after night 2, and I'll give my thoughts on that at the time when it's known. It's likely Becky, per what's out there and what makes sense with Lyra. But I'm not going to speak on it until I know for sure. But man, it's disappointing. It's really, really, really disappointing. And someone who's been such a good, soldier for them for so many years, and just to have her go out and market her ass off all week for this event, knowing she's not going to be on it. You got these clips of Triple H talking about how at this last Rumble, he said
Mm.
she's one of the most under-recognized talents that they have. It's like, well, why do you think that is, man? You're the one who makes these decisions. You're the one who puts her in positions like this. It's awful. It was completely unnecessary. And even if they wanted to do this return that it looks like they're doing, there's a million ways to do it that doesn't make their talent look bad. But that's a WWE staple, and it has been for a long time. They like to make talent look bad. There's always some underlying current of a talent being made to look foolish. On the men's side, it's usually not first ballot Hall of Famers. I'm not saying that makes it okay, but it's crazy that this keeps happening to Bayley. I'll touch on real quick. WrestleMania 37, when she hosted, she was the champion for most of the whole year before that. So not having her on the card, she lost to Sasha in October, and then she got beat by Bianca like 6 times between October and Mania. And them not carving out something for her to do on a 2-night Mania card was an abomination back then. And it's something that she's talked about in interviews really hurt her soul. So I can't imagine. She said missing 37 hurt significantly more than the Mania she missed because she was hurt. And so I can't imagine what this one feels like. They played in her face.
So you obviously are coming at this from the perspective of not just a Bayley fan, but as you look at the work that the performer has put in up to this point, and to kind of
Right.
have the rug pulled from under her. I'm going to take this in a different direction. So I think problems like this are easily avoided with equal booking of women and men.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 mid-card titles. You have a intercontinental women's title, and you have a US women's title. The men's US title is on the card. It changed hands last night. Jacob Fatu, for those keeping score at home, won the title from LA Knight. It was a 10-minute match. They got a decent entrance, and it is what it is. It wasn't, it didn't set the world on fire, but they got their Mania time. You have tonight you have a 4-way for the Intercontinental title for the men. So you have these 2 titles that are on paper should be equal. 2 for men, 2 for women. But they're not equal because the US women's title isn't even on the card.
Right.
And the Intercontinental women's title is in a tag match where she's going to be, of the 4 competitors, the 4th most over person in assuming her tag team partner is who I predicted it would be a month ago. That's the problem. Bayley is, in this case, she's just the symbol for the problem. The problem is, all you had to do is, if this was the direction you were going in, and I've watched enough wrestling to know that they knew this for a while. That's why I came up with what this was going to be from the beginning, because I could see it. Okay, we want Lyra to have this moment with this returning one of the biggest stars ever moment, her mentor, whatever. Great. Here's what we do. Lyra and Bayley have a match for the Intercontinental title. Liv and Raquel, being the jerks they are, because their characters are their jerks, they cost Lyra the title. Okay? And Bayley is now your Intercontinental Women's Champion. But in the same story, Roxanne, who has been paired with Liv and Raquel in previous segments, is like, almost goes to Liv and Raquel and says, okay, thank you for putting the belt, thank you for helping get it off the Bird Lady, putting it on Bayley. I'm going to take the belt from Bayley at Mania. You guys handle your business with the tag belts. And you almost could start, and you could almost make Roxanne at that point part of the Judgment Day. right? Because we know Finn is leaving the Judgment Day, so you have an opening there. My point here, my bigger point, is you have these two women's mid card titles. The whole point of them is to get new women opportunities for shows like WrestleMania, but not even new women, new stories. Like
Yep.
Bayley being the legend you're describing, which she is like somebody like I don't want to. I'm not saying she's John Cena, but I want people to listen to me. When the U.S. title for the men was just nothing, a nothing belt, they gave it to John Cena and he elevated it. Even if Bayley held this belt for 2 months and it culminated in her losing to Roxanne at WrestleMania, Bayley would have been like, okay, got this belt. It adds to my resume. I get to put over one of the future superstars of this business in Roxanne, and I get my Mania spot, and it's a singles match, and I get to tell a quick story, and I'm fulfilled.
Right.
That's where the problem is. Like I get it. This is gonna be today. It's gonna trend the whole day. It's gonna be the whole talk of when the tag match happens, because Bayley does have a huge following online and people love Bayley, and they love Bayley for a lot of different reasons. One, she's always been the woman that every other woman in the locker room has praised. Becky, Charlotte, the now Mercedes, then Sasha, Bianca, Nia Jax, Liv Morgan, Roxanne, Lyra. Like everybody has, Tiffany, they've all praised Bayley as like this locker room rock, as like the
Well,
leader.
yeah. When she rehabbed her ACL injury, she spent 6 months down in the PC, and this current group of NXT wrestlers and now main roster that came up during that time trained with Bayley every day. Tiffany,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Roxanne, Cora, that generation. Um, the NXT, what is the one when it had the fun colors and stuff like that generation of NXT. Um, so Bayley's done the best job of all the horsewomen of bridging to the future generation in WWE. I think Mercedes does a good job now over in AEW, but in the WWE locker room, Bayley is respected by her elders, her peers, and her uh, the people that she is a elder to.
Oh,
Um, and I think it makes a big difference. And she's not only is she popular amongst fans and people, she doesn't have any reason for anyone to dislike her. Everyone respects her, right? So this really stinks.
well, and also you talk about elders. When Nikki Bella was rehabbing her injury, she picked Bayley as her training partner to get her back in shape. Right?
Yep.
She went to the performance center every day, and Bayley, who she specifically went to WWE and said, "I want to wrestle with her every day to get me ready." And look, I don't. You can measure metrics. There aren't too many women's wrestling stars who've ever been bigger than Nikki Bella. And the other thing is AJ Lee, when she gave kind of her last quote unquote speech when she won the Slammy, she wore Bayley's shirt. I think she wore Bayley's shirt the night that she left. She wore
She did.
the she did, right? So Bayley is like there's a saying, it's a lyric, it's a rap lyric from Styles P. He said, Styles P, your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. And I would say Bayley is your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler. Like I used to think it was Mercedes, and maybe it still is, but I'm starting to think Bayley is everybody's favorite wrestler. Like if you were to poll the women on who they would rank as like, hey, not only is she my favorite wrestler, but she's my favorite human in the locker room or person. Bayley's probably everybody's favorite. Like I've
I
never heard a person say a bad thing about Bayley ever.
Yeah, no. Bayley is, if Mercedes is your favorite wrestler, it's from afar, right? It's like they watch her and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to get in the ring with her. Bayley is your favorite wrestler's favorite human that they've
Yeah,
met in
yeah.
wrestling. Um, I could rant about it all day. I know we got other stuff to cover. One last thing though, it's it's a ripple enough in the locker room, and I know this guy's not in the locker room anymore, but it's fairly rare that you hear something like this about women's wrestling. So I think we are making progress. But Tom Pestock, who everyone on this uh listening would know as Baron Corbin, the former Baron Corbin, who's now making his name on the independent scene. I believe Tom Pestock is his real name. I think he's wrestling by a new name. I don't recall it off the top of my head, but Twitter handles his real name. He tweeted along the lines of if they really pulled Bayley off of the Mania card, I'm pissed and I've really got something to say about it because it's that low. And not that I'm advertising someone else's pod, but he's going to go on where he talks on Monday and says he's got a lot to say about it. And he kind of responded to some fans that said, well, maybe she was in on it. And he said, no one in wrestling takes himself off the Mania card. It just doesn't happen. But I only bring that up here is to say you don't often get men in the business willing to publicly go and speak up for the women. And he even said, I don't care how awesome the returning person is, this is wrong. So Bayley is that beloved that it's going to create, it's going to be the talk. And we don't talk about this stuff on this pod, but it wasn't a great PR week for WWE at all.
No,
A
it was
lot of the
bad.
a
No, it
lot
was
of the
bad.
men's a lot of the men's wrestlers said a lot of crazy shit and probably angered and or hurt a lot of fans along the way. And I'll just leave it at this. No company can afford to willfully push away and hurt any of their fans. It's bad business. So this
Yeah.
PR week, no matter what you believe, this was a 2 out of 10 blown shit show PR week.
Yeah.
And adding the Bayley thing onto it, which is less real world, more behind the scenes world, but it's just another wart on what has been an awful way to go about doing your business this week.
Like you're right, we don't talk about this. We have our opinions and we keep them away from this because we want to talk about the positivity of the genre of women's wrestling. But I would say that to use the phrase, it didn't have a great PR week. I'll go the other direction. It was a terrible PR week. Like if you were, somebody who does marketing for a living, if you were to like sit in these meetings and say, okay, how can we possibly make ourselves look bad? And then write down on a whiteboard how you can do it, they did it. They nailed it. If that was their intent, they nailed it. Because look, everybody is entitled to their opinions on who they vote for, why they vote for the person, what they believe. Everybody's entitled to it. Like I don't want to. I don't want people to think that it's like, oh, because you believe in this, then you're no. Like let them do what they want to do. But I think what I learned this week about this whole week with public relations with this company is they are getting into the dangerous territory again of just pure arrogance, which is
Yep.
they're entering a world that I know we don't talk about. We're huge basketball fans that Adam Silver is in the NBA now, where he continuously heard people from a distance say, "Hey, your product's kind of like teetering here, Chief. Like your All-Star game stinks, and you're shooting too many threes, and the players don't play the way they used to play, right? Like they sit out too many games." And he's just like, well, we just signed this new TV deal. Who gives a crap, right? Like we're making so much money, and WWE's kind of in that same boat. But then when you start looking at these television ratings, which is where all this money is coming from, really, it's like, oh, there is a problem. But it's not a problem of the sport, it's a problem of kind of how that specific league is run. And I look at this as, I think professional wrestling as a genre is as hot as it's ever been. You know, you're going to hear some really positive Rev Pro numbers come out after today. You've heard the New Japan numbers, the Stardom numbers, the AEW numbers on Max. Pro wrestling is a hot genre. The
Yep.
WWE is as hot as it's ever been, but they have gotten into this area of arrogance this week where they just think they could say whatever they want and it's not going to impact them. But they're starting to see how their own arrogance is hitting them, because this week, up until Monday, now Triple H, he's very good at the press conference in twisting the truth. He said, well, we were waiting for the production stuff to flush out so we could release these tickets. No, the tickets were there, but they were so expensive, nobody was buying them. And then for the last 4 days, you lowered the price anywhere from 30 to 50% on these remaining tickets. And then everybody bought them. So I hope they learned the lesson that at least going forward, they price it better so they can allow their real fans, you know, who stuck with them through the 27 John Cena and Randy Orton main events in a row. Hey, they are the fans who we need to at least acknowledge and cater to. But like I think the Bayley thing goes back to this. It's not a real world issue, it's a storyline issue, but it is a real world issue because the comments they made this week about certain individuals and why they are in support of it counters the logic of how this individual thinks. But like, Bayley's a good person. For all accounts, Pamela Martinez, sorry, the human, is a great human being. Giving, cares about her coworkers, always there to do the right thing, company person. When you start treating a person like that poorly and it's a media story, that's where the arrogance is coming in, because now you're showing your true colors, like, hey, we can do whatever we want to whoever we want and we have no consequences. And I
Yep.
think they got to be very careful here, because I have, as a wrestling fan for most of my life, I have seen this business be at the top, Hogan Macho Man, and in 5 years from Hogan Macho Man, which was 1989, 1994, they were giving WrestleMania tickets away at local insurance companies and they had it in Hartford, Connecticut, because they could not sell out any other building outside of Connecticut for a main event, which I think was Bam Bam Bigelow and Lawrence Taylor. And in 5 years from then, they went back to Hogan, Austin Rock. They got white hot again. And 5 years from that point, 2004 WrestleMania, I believe, if I'm doing this correctly, was Madison Square Garden. The main event was Chris Benoit. And we all know what happened there. So, like, wrestling goes up and down. And with so many alternative options, they got to be very careful. But, you know, history repeats itself.
It's more accessible than ever.
Yeah.
All those other downturns you talked about, they had the fencing up for most of the time that people went away from wrestling and they didn't go fall in love with another brand. It's like someone
So,
got sick of drinking Coke. Well, in the middle there, they did WCW, but
no. Go ahead. I'll tell you what. Go ahead.
I'm about to watch the best wrestler of all time, in my opinion, wrestle in Doncaster, United Kingdom in about, 6 hours or so, 7 hours. Still figuring out the time difference, but I'm going to watch it either on this computer we're recording on or on this phone. And I'm going to watch it on a company that I've never watched an event for, right? And the inconvenience of getting to see this match is not only minimal, it took me less than 45 seconds to sign up to get this match. So
Mhm.
they are parading around as though they're this unbeatable force, and the arrogance does catch up with you. And AEW is very accessible all over the United States, but it's not just that. It's Japanese. You used to have to be part. You talk about on the show, and I think it's
Mhm.
one of the things people love to hear you talk about. You used to go to a local, store to trade tapes
Mhm.
to just get access to Japanese pro wrestling.
Mhm.
Well, now we can stay up till 3 a.m. and watch whatever we want to watch if our favorites over there. And I think that's one of the groundbreaking things that Mercedes is doing and is a part of, is shining a light on all those areas that wrestling is alive and well and thriving in its own way. It may not be WWE thriving, but it's thriving, and there's room for growth for all of it. So them thumbing their nose at any of their fans is just stupid. It's bad
Yeah,
business.
so 1994. The reason I bring that year up is two things really came into my life in 1993, 1994. So WWE was awful. It was just an awful product. I couldn't
Oh,
watch
so
it.
bad.
And so was WCW, by the way. WCW sucked too then. It wasn't good either. So um again, shout out to my friend Garfield. He's back in Toronto. I know he does listen to the podcast. So he had this buffalo. He had this, like, his house was situated where he could get Buffalo satellite, like channels that you get on antenna in Buffalo. And they got ECW. So he was the only one in my neighborhood who got ECW. So he would videotape the weekly ECW show that was running on, I don't even know what, it might have been Channel 4 in Buffalo. I can't remember. And he would videotape it for me. And he would be like, yo, I know you love wrestling, but let me show you this shit called ECW. So he showed it to me. I was like, oh my God, this is good. Can I have the tape? I would tape it off him. Those are the ECW tapes I took to the Dragon, not the Dragon Center, to Pacific Mall in Markham in Toronto. And everybody who's from Toronto who listens to this knows exactly what I'm talking about. And a guy who owned a video game store, like he would sell the Japanese video games. So if you had a Super Nintendo, and people who have Super Nintendo might not know how to do this, but I do, because that's what I do. If you open your Super Nintendo and you take a butter knife and you put it over the stove and you let it get hot, there are two knobs that are inside this, and you cut them. You can then play the Japanese video game, the Japanese Super Nintendo game, which is called Super Famicom. So I would go to Pacific Mall with my friend Sukraj, and we would buy Japanese video games because they would come out before they came out to the United States. So in that, the owner of this store, he had all the Japanese women's wrestling tapes, the Minami Toyotas, the Aja Khans, the Bull Nakata. He had all this stuff. So I would be like, hey, can I get the tapes? He's like, well, what do you got? And I said, well, I got the CCW thing. He goes, what's that? I said, and you know how why he wanted ECW tapes? Because of Pegasus Kid and I can't, what is Eddie Guerrero's Japanese? Oh, this is gonna kill me. But Eddie Guerrero, when he wrestled under the mask, Tiger Mask.
Tiger. Yeah, Tiger Mask. Yeah.
He wrestled under the mask, so he knew them from Japan. So he's like, oh, you got those okay, yeah, I'll take those. So that's how we started to trade. The point is, in 1984, I wish I had the cell phone. I wish I had the computer where I could have found all this, but I probably lost the magic of the tape trading. One of the other tapes that I traded to get, I think I probably got like 10 Minami Toyota tapes for this one event. In the news last night, WWE bought AAA. We'll cover it very quickly here. The AAA Lucha Libre promotion out of Mexico. Not a very well-run organization now, and hopefully
Not at
WWE
all.
cleans it up and kind of sets it straight. But Triple H said something in his press conference to announce the acquisition that resonated with me so well. 1994, I had what was called a gray box, and I got pay-per-views for free. I got the AAA pay-per-view for free. So I had my friend Sukraj, who I just mentioned, at my house, and my friend Chill, and we watched this thing. And we thought it was like the greatest wrestling pay-per-view of all time. And it might still be that. It's up there. and what is it? The Los Gringos, as they call it, what is their name? What is Art Barr and Eddie Guerrero's name? American Love Machines. They went against oh God, I can't remember their name, but it was hair versus mask in one of the greatest tag team matches of all time. By the way, it got 5 stars for anybody who cares about that stuff. And I remember taking that tape and going to Pacific Mall and trading it for a bunch of stuff because the AAA pay-per-view was like this like holy grail pay-per-view. It's like, oh my God, you have that? Like, holy cow. So I understand why WWE would buy this company, but what I really hope they do with buying this company for me as a nostalgia thing is revert it back to what it used
Really,
to be. Because it sucks now, but it used to be one of the best promotions in the world. It was unbelievable in the mid 90s. So with that being said, we talked a lot of not happy thoughts with what has happened to Bayley. And before we get back to the other two women's matches from Mania, let's talk about Wednesday night, Boston,
oof,
Massachusetts, AEW Spring Break in the new MGM Hall. A dream match for a lot of us wrestling fans who have wanted to see these two women have a one-on-one match where they got time, they got a story, they had real stakes. What could they deliver? Mercedes Moné, four belts Moné, versus the Overlord of Minions, forever Ring of Honor champion Athena, the fallen goddess as she calls herself. They opened the show and it was electric. This was one of the
electric.
best women's TV matches of all time. I'm not going to go into ranking it today. I have to watch it more times, and then I'll know where I put it. But off the top of my head, I don't know. I think there's one other TV women's match I like maybe more in my life of watching women's wrestling, but this is as good as anything I've ever seen. I watched it multiple times already. I think I watched it like 4 times, and I watched it on Max. I watched it on TV. I watched the uncut without commercial version. I watched a crowd video of it. This was magnificent stuff. These two women put on a classic. They showed why on anybody's list, they are two of the whatever best women's wrestlers, men's wrestlers in the world. Um, it was unbelievable, man. Like I couldn't believe how good this match was, and like I knew it would be amazing. And I said on this show, my floor is it's going to be a 4 out of 5 out of 5. Like that's my floor. It can't be
Yep.
worse than that. And I was right. I me grading it, I would grade it 4.75, and it was perfect. Like I was shocked by the ending. I love Mercedes for a multitude of reasons. One is her forever homage to her and I goat. She has fans who think she's the best. I am one of her fans, but her and I we're on a different wavelength. We know who the best is. She's with me on this, and she did the victory drop as an homage to Minami Toyota. So that was amazing. That is what I love about professional wrestling. That match is why I love the genre. Um, it was great. It was just a fantastic match. So your thoughts?
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, it's one of my favorite matches ever. I think, I asked the question the day after. That's the best non-title match of Mercedes' career. I tweeted that on Thursday. Um, I didn't get any pushback. And the only reason I put it out there was like, am I missing one, right? And what was funny is she ended up doing a Q&A on her ride out to the UK. And I actually tweeted at her. I said, "Hey, that was your best non-title match ever, right?" And she replied, "Duh." So she was feeling herself after that match as well. Um, the the 4.5 floor that you said, it's actually crazy because the only reason it was, if you don't think it was a 5, and you actually could say this is a 5, but what was incredible about this is they showed so much restraint, and they went out there and they gave us, it's like a pitcher who knows they can throw 103 miles an hour, knowing that 100 is enough to strike you out. And They went up there, they threw 100 without breaking a sweat. And then later on in our life, they're going to throw the 103-mile-an-hour fastball and they're going to break our brains because classic match that had not one finisher landed, not one finisher was landed, not one near fall. Okay? No near
Mhm.
falls. These women are so creative. They put on a classic that was almost entirely stuff that they don't normally do. The only signature moves that Mercedes hit off the top of my head is she hit her lung blower, which is a newer signature move, and that was a cool spot I'll talk about in a second. And she got the statement maker on a couple times, which, you know, at this point, she only finishes matches with it if she hits it after she's hit a moneymaker. So uh, Athena's got such a big repertoire. She hit a lot of moves that are familiar. She hit the full speed suicide dive that she's hit on Mercedes now 3 times. Once famously in WWE, where she plastered her into the wall, and did a similar thing here. No meteoras. If you watch Mercedes wrestle over the last 7-8 years, and no meteoras, no moneymaker. Athena went for the O face once. Mercedes countered it into the victory roll drop roll that made famous by Manami Toyota. So we always talk about creativity, and just what you see in wrestling nowadays is usually, oh, we got to have a great match. Well, what are we going to do? I'll hit my finisher and you'll kick out. I'll hit my finisher again and you'll kick out. That's most of great matches. Um, I enjoyed CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins last night. We don't review men's matches, but I'll say it was a good match. It was a fun match. Most of the drama was built around them each trading their finisher on each other and then the third person getting in the way. Almost the entire great part of the match was built on that. And so I just appreciate how otherworldly it is for these two women to go out and just say, we don't need to do any of that to have this crowd in an uproar over this match. I do appreciate that venue is sick. I hope Tony books it again
Mhm.
and again and
Yeah, it's a
again.
great
It's a
venue.
3,200 person venue. Um, and it was hot, not just for Mercedes and Athena. It was hot the whole night, but we got kind of a holy shit moment at the beginning before they even locked up. Um, Two things they did real quick before I kick it back to you that I really loved. They started the match locking up, and they almost locked up several times in a way where it was like they told you from the first 30 seconds of the match, we are evenly matched. The lockups were to no advantage. And I think that really set the stage for what they were about to do. And then I talked about the lung blower. You know, there were times where the match was not as crisp and fluid as, like a Will Ospreay match, but it actually worked because, again, they were telling this story that they're so evenly matched that even getting a split-second advantage over the other was so difficult. And it really manifested itself in this tombstone lung blower spot that they went Mercedes, or she got Mercedes up. Athena got Mercedes up into a tombstone. Mercedes reversed it backwards to lift her into the lung blower. She couldn't get her up. Tried again, got her up on the third one, but it looked like Athena was fighting back. So then Athena goes sideways to get Mercedes back up, and she couldn't get her up. And again, it looked like Mercedes was fighting back. And then they go again, and Mercedes goes backwards and gets her up the first time, but with a struggle, and hits the lung blower. And it was like, I don't know if they rehearsed it going back and forth like that. Or if they talked about that. I don't know if that's in the moment because it wasn't crisp the first time. But to me, that adds to a match because I
Mhm.
don't like for it to look like the person is complacent in getting beat up. That's against the point, right? You want to look like
Mhm.
they're fighting back. So I just they had incredible chemistry, and even the things that didn't look to, work smoothly added to the match. It was a fight.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the match. I oftentimes in when we record these episodes, I get messages sent to me because everybody knows, I am a huge, Joshi wrestling fan. I've always been, whether it's EO currently, uh, who's always been one of my favorites. Mayu's one of my favorites. I loved Kyrie, but obviously, everybody knows I love Manami Toyota. And people always ask me like, how do you rate a Mercedes Athena match against an old Manami Toyota? Like, how do you do that? Because if I'm saying this is 4.75, am I saying then why is it not a five? And so I'm going to try to break it down here quick. When I was a teenager watching Japanese women's wrestling from, I'm talking the 90s, you got to understand something. At that moment in my life, what was women's wrestling until I saw Japanese women's wrestling, right? To me, it was Wendy
Right.
Richter and the Fabulous Moolah pulling each other's hair in a match. And it was like the lowest of the common denominator. It was like the most stereotypical thing for like women wrestling, right? Because it's like women can't do what men can do. So they're pulling each other's hair, and that's all we're gonna let them do until I saw the Jumping Bomb Angels in WWE that one Survivor Series. Like, what the hell is this? Like, wait, they could do these like women like because I was young. I was like, wait, they're capable of doing this stuff. Like, it blew my mind. I've seen women in high schools I went to in elementary school have better fights than what I used to see on WWE TV for a while,
Right.
right? So then I see the Jumping Bomb Angels, but okay, I saw them a couple times on TV, didn't think anything moved on with my life. Then I get into it where I have access to transportation, etc. I see the Joshi wrestling stuff, like there's a 1995 Akira Hokuto match versus Manami Toyota. I think maybe September 1995, if I know my dates correctly, September 2nd. And that match is amazing. My point is, when I saw that match as a teenager, they were doing shit men couldn't do, right? So you got to understand, like, I'm watching prodding Kevin Nash, who can barely run the ropes, fight Undertaker or fight Papa Shango, or what is it? Well, yeah, not Shango, Kama, the Ultimate Fighting Machine, whatever they were called, right? And then I throw in a videotape of Manami Toyota with Akira Hokuto, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like these women are like superheroes to me. Like, what galaxy are they from? Like, they're doing stuff that men couldn't do, or not saying couldn't do, or weren't being allowed to do on WWE TV, which is or WCW, which was the accessible wrestling to everybody. So all those matches to me are like graded on this different galaxy because I can't grade them watching them back now because it's like I've seen so much great women's wrestling now. But I got to think about what I was thinking that moment then. Okay, now let's fast forward to today. I look at modern day women's wrestling in three tiers of match grading. It's very simple. The match behind you, to me, is the gold standard. That's it.
Right.
That match behind you, to me, is the most important women's wrestling match to ever happen in North America. I grade it out of five. I'm breaking a scale here as a 5.5. I grade that match as a 5.5 out of 5 because it's that important, it's that meaningful, impactful, etc. No match to me has ever, with the overall package, topped that match. Number
Correct.
two, I have in recent wrestling, I have Hazuki Mercedes as, in my opinion, the best wrestled in North America women's match, but the presentation doesn't match the one behind you. So I have that as 5 out of 5. Like Hazuki Mercedes is 5 out of 5.
Right.
So then I look at Mercedes Athena and I say, was it as good as Hazuki Mercedes? To me, it was not. but it wasn't that far removed from it. So I have it at 4.75. But back
You
to
get the Chris matches right there too, and that's
yeah,
she's almost creating a new scale for us, right?
all those Chris matches. Stephanie won. Becky Hell in a Cell. She has so many. But here's where I think you brought up a good point that I didn't even realize until you brought it up to me watching the match again. The lack of false finishes and having the match be so attention grabbing and so captivating and so couldn't take my eyes off the screen and so like it was just like this great theater. And it's like I always tell people there are, I don't know if you have movies like this, but there are movies that are so good to me that I could be cleaning my house and I'll be flipping through the DVR or not the DVR, the cable box, and all of a sudden this movie comes on. And no matter where it is in the movie, I will watch it from that point forward and
Oh
let
yeah,
it play. Everybody has movies like that. Like Shawshank Redemption is probably number
Shawshank.
one.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's
yeah.
probably it for me, and maybe Godfather one or two. And it's like, so when I watch this match, like I can't just watch it and say, okay, let me pause it and I'll come back to it. Like I watched the first time, and I was like, holy shit, that was amazing. Rewound it, watched it again, woke up in the morning, getting ready, brushing my teeth, had it on my phone, watching it on Max. Like, oh, I didn't even notice she did that yesterday. It was great. And it's why I love professional wrestling. And it's why I think, people who don't love professional wrestling, like that's the type of match I would show somebody to watch.
I absolutely. I have people I work with who are casual wrestling fans, and they were talking to me about wrestling this week because of WrestleMania.
Mhm.
And I'll tell everyone listening what I told them. And actually, our numbers continue to grow, and there's new people listening every single week. I presume that if you've made it this far, you keep up with, women's wrestling. But you know what? It's probably wrong to assume. So if you are not keeping up with Mercedes Moné in AEW, seek out Mercedes Moné versus Athena. And if you're a WWE fan, you would know them as Sasha Banks versus Ember Moon, singles match on Dynamite. If somehow you haven't watched it and you're hearing my voice now, watch the match. But I told a bunch of people I work with, I said, hey, you remember, they all know I'm a big Mercedes Sasha fan. I said, you remember Ember Moon, right? And they said, yeah, they're casual WWE fans. I said, well, her and Mercedes wrestled on Wednesday. I said, do you have Max? And they all did. And I said, just go to Dynamite. It's AEW Dynamite from April 16th. It's the first match on the card. And I said, it's a nice little appetizer for WrestleMania weekend. That's the way that I threw it out to them. I said, just, you want to watch a great match before WrestleMania weekend, get you back in the mood for wrestling. It's a nice little, and at least three of the people that I told that to, I got texts from them over the several days since. I was like, holy shit, that match was incredible.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
it was done at just like a wizardry level, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. It's just two women at the top of their craft in their prime. And I, like I said, it's one of my favorite matches ever, and I think it will be a comfort match for me for a long time. It's a 21-minute match that goes down like an 8-minute match. Like it just feels urgent the whole
it,
time. And
yeah, it was paced very well. Like that's what
yeah,
I loved about the match was it was paced very well. And to your casual friends, I would say this: you got what people love about professional wrestling, both parts of it in two separate matches this week. Number one, Mercedes Athena is for somebody who just wants to watch the in-ring mastery, technical wizardry, reversal of holds, storytelling through the match in the ring without the reliance on the 2.75 kick out, that as I call it, the Roman Reigns special.
right.
You got that match. And then if you wanted to see what people love about modern wrestling, false finish kickouts, storytelling, cinema. the theater. Watch the main event of WrestleMania 1 last night because that
Yeah,
gave you everything. And I thought, like, I'm not comparing matches here. I'm saying I loved both matches for different reasons. Like,
yeah,
I loved the main event of WrestleMania last night. I am not apologetic in saying it for exactly a finish I kind of expected, but the theater of it and how they got to the point and what the work Heyman was doing, I loved. But what I loved about Mercedes Athena is just two women. It's like, you know what? It's like I throw my hip hop analogies in a lot, but it's like a rap battle. It's like these two women picked up the microphone and they just said, "Yeah, I want to know who's the better rapper. Let's go." And whoever wins at the end, we shake hands and we move on, but we drop the mic. That's what I felt like that match was. It was just like these two women went out there and said, "You know what? You guys are going to hype up these other matches that happened this week on the much bigger show, but no, none of those women can touch us. And we're going to prove it to you." And they did. Now,
yep,
pivoting to WrestleMania, because we need to talk about WrestleMania. We had two women's matches. We'll save the title match for last. Let's get to Naomi Jade, a feud that we have been very high on. We
yep.
predicted the whole way how it would happen, how we got to this point. Um, we got the match, and it was a match. I didn't particularly love the ending. I would have gone with Naomi getting the win. I understand why Jade got the win because I think Naomi's going to get her win back. I don't think this feud's done. But what did you think of the match? Just the match.
Yeah, 9 minutes, 20 seconds. Not long enough. If you watched last night, every match until the Charlotte Tiffany match was sub 10 minutes. It was like they were sprinting, and not to belabor the Bayley Roxanne point, but they finished at 8 p.m.
30,
Las Vegas
8:30.
time, 8:30 Las
Mm-hmm.
Vegas time. Do you know how early it is in 8:30 in Las Vegas to be finished with an event for the night? But every match was basically a sprint. So in that regard, I can't complain about Naomi Jade because it's not like they were. I would yell about the time if the men were getting longer matches, but actually every match early was that quick. So um, that's just the way that they built the card out. Uh, Naomi came out to a new song. Probably my first misstep for her in this new character. It's a heavy metal. I'm a heavy metal guy. It's cool entrance music. It doesn't scream Naomi for me. I'd be curious to know how her most diehard fans feel about it, and um, I guess it's up in the air, right? Because a lot of these, performers complain about their music now because they really don't. They're not in charge of it, right? Did Naomi pick this, or was it given to her? I do wonder. But she looked great. The new gear, the new look, everything. She looked like she was fit for WrestleMania. Jade came out. You know, the look is, you know, Jade is top tier in presentation in the sport, right? I mean, her presentation is not topped by many. Um, they had a lot of good spots, and they had a lot of what I felt like was a decent amount of creativity for uh, what they were able to do. Um, I didn't love the finish. Uh, I thought the power bomb spot that Jade dropped Naomi into, where she twisted her around and power bombed her. I actually was worried that Naomi landed wrong on that. She landed rough for sure, higher on the head than you want to see in that moment, which was the theme for the night. Um, Tiffany and Charlotte both landed too high on their head on power bomb spots, so I don't know what was in the water yesterday, but a lot more back of the head than back of the shoulders for those who technically watch how they're supposed to keep each other safe. But
Ah.
um, she landed hard, and then she got her up into her finisher, and that finished the match. I don't think we expected them to, pull out even a 4-star match. It wasn't bad. They did some cool stuff outside the ring. Naomi healed it up a little bit. Um, I feel dumb that I picked Naomi to win, and hear me out. My heart, she stole my heart with her work. But it is WWE booking to a T to say 50-50. These two, this is the one we, have a lot invested in. The heel's more over. The heel can handle a loss. The face can't, right? In those scenarios, Becky, the man beating blue-haired Sasha Banks, they always, when it's like a coin flip and the heel is hot, but the face is someone they're invested in and need to be hot, they always lean towards, well, a heel can handle losing without it hurting their character. It's WWE booking 101, so we shouldn't be shocked. But I think we
So
both picked Naomi, right?
yeah, I picked Naomi because of my heart too. I didn't really
Yeah,
think she was good. I didn't really think she was going to win, especially after I saw Jade lose to Liv Morgan. I was like, oh, okay. Well, you know what?
yeah,
Um, here's the thing. I picked Jade on our show, but when I did the post, I picked Jade on Twitter because I don't know, like to me, the best part of this match was actually Jade's entrance, which is I loved the Jin Cantori piece from the Weather Network that the storm is
yeah,
coming. I thought that was great. I liked this match. I don't think I'll go back and rewatch it a bunch of times. I love. I think Naomi is excellent. I think she's an A+ worker when she's given the platform to be that. We've seen her have great matches with Charlotte. We've seen her have great matches in TNA. Her match with Bayley was fantastic. Bayley, Tiffany, the three-way was great. So, look, Jade is where Jade is, not because she's going to ever win Technical Wrestler of the Year. She's just
right.
not. Now, that's not what she is. She is a character. She is a presentation. She is an appearance. She looks amazing. And she has a lot of aura to her, and that's the truth. But for those of us who love the in-ring piece of this business, that's the best you're probably going to get out of Jade. Like the best I've ever seen Jade was the match she had with Chris in AEW.
Yeah,
And I mean, we've kind of figured it out now. Chris is a hell of a worker.
yeah,
And they were given more time. I thought Naomi did a great job here to carry her along.
yeah,
But to me, this feud needs to ratchet up where they need to go to like street fights and they need to go
yeah,
to like weapons matches because if they're just gonna have in-ring matches, this feud will quickly cool off for me. But
yeah.
yeah,
The Jade thing is interesting, and we're gonna have a whole episode about this in probably a week or two. We need a quiet week of on TV stuff to really be able to talk about this as much as we both want to, but um, it's a good thing and a bad thing. There's so many great women's wrestlers out there now, and the genre has just exploded from this match, and everyone who started training because of this match and because of Charlotte and Becky, I'll give them some credit. Everyone who over the horsewomen dominating from 2015 to 2020, a lot of the women that got into wrestling from that wave, you're just chock full of great performers and great up and coming. We're not even don't have time to discuss Stand and Deliver on this, but Sol Ruka won the North American title and she looked incredible. You have all these great women on the up and up, and Jade is always going to be there because of the presentation is so top tier. And you know, Jade is almost like the Ultimate Warrior, and I say that respectfully, and it sounds disrespectfully, and just hear me out for a second. When I was 7, I did not know the Ultimate Warrior was not good in the ring because Macho Man Randy Savage, Macho King at the time, made him look like $1,000,000. Um, Jade is a little bit not for us. Okay. Jade is actually for an 8-year-old kid to watch and just look and go like mouth agape, just like, oh my God. Because she looks like a goddess. and she presents like an out of this world character. And the kids watching WrestleMania just think she's awesome, and she just beat Naomi, right? She's currently
Mhm.
presented like a superhero face, and she only needs to get good enough in the ring that at some point, if she ever does get a chance to have a women's world title match at WrestleMania, which I think is entirely possible in her career, they believe in her. You know, they've invested enough in her that could happen. Um, Hopefully she can have a match like what she had with Chris. And if she's in there with Bianca or someone who can get that out of her in 15, 20 minutes, she'll be just fine. Beyond that, you nailed it. They need to kind of throw some gimmicks out there and let it be a brawl, because she's going to be able to do that just as fine as anyone. And her and
Mhm.
Naomi chasing each other all over the arena will be good fun, and it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be so technical, and that's going to be the way to book her.
Yeah. Jade Cargill serves a purpose for two demos, right? The kids look at her as a superhero, larger than life. Like, oh my God, the young girls, they're like, wow, she's somebody I could aspire to be. I mean, that's why, the Bianca thing is fascinating, because Bianca literally checks every box, like every
Yeah.
single box, right? There's another audience Jade serves a purpose to. I mentioned him earlier in this podcast. My friend Garfield, who put me on to ECW, he disconnected with wrestling for a long time. I went back to Toronto last year, and we have a common friend named Flav who does listen to this podcast every week. And Flav was like, he's a huge wrestling fan, huge Mercedes Moné fan. He went to see her in Toronto in AEW by himself. He like you did. He went by himself to the AEW show in Toronto. And he showed a picture to Garfield of Jade Cargill. And he's like, oh, I got to start watching wrestling again. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. Like he goes, the women look like that now. I got to start watching, because he showed a picture of her and Bianca when they were the team. And he's like, oh, okay. I get it now. I get why you guys are doing a whole podcast on women's wrestling. So Jade does serve a purpose for those two demos, and she's fantastic at it. Great. Um, someone great somebody who young women should aspire to be. She's a she's self-made businesswoman. She's a mother. She's super successful in her pre-WWE career. She has always made a lot of money, and has kind of paved the way as a businesswoman. So I think she's somebody that WWE definitely should push. But your point, for like somebody like us who love the in-ring product and part of the business, she's never going to win us over 100% unless she sees vast improvement in the ring. Now, speaking of being in the ring, um last night we had a very, you have the times on these matches, so I think Charlotte Tiffany last night was 20 minutes, 19 minutes, something in that range.
19 minutes, that sounds right. Yeah.
Okay.
19 might be 1920 if I remember.
Okay. So it was 19 minutes, 20 seconds. And this was a match. It was a match.
It was a match.
And I I probably like this match more than you do, but not that much
Yes.
more. Not that much more. Because the right person to me won the match. That's
Yeah.
kind of my okay, if I was just we talk about watching matches on mute all the time. If I were to just watch this thing on mute and not have a vested interest in either character, I would ask this question. Oh, they haven't been wrestling that long. These two.
Yeah.
But knowing what I know about the business, that one person is arguably paraded in front of us as the best ever by the company in Charlotte, and the other is paraded in front of us as the next supernova of the women's division in Tiffany Stratton. Uh this was a match. Like I said, I'm being very kind here. Uh, I watched it back because I watched it the first time and I got caught up in it because I was, I'm a Tiffany fan and I was just so nervous that she was going to lose. But then she won. I was like, "Whoo, yeah, she won. Great." And all of you in the chat are like, uh, what did you watch? Because this is, you guys are like, what was that? Like, did you? They were you guys are all telling me, and not just you, not us in our chat, but other people were messaging me like, dude, did you really like that? Like, they saw my tweet about, oh, I'm so happy, and they're like, did you watch? Did you get a different feed? Like, were you given access to a different match? And I'm like, was it really that bad? And they're like, well, go back and watch it. Like, okay, so I watched it. I watched it last night, and I watched it this morning in preparing for this. I shouldn't have watched it back.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have. Because my initial grade to you in the chat was a 2.75 out of 5. I rewatched it back. I watched it back once with the crowd and everything, and my grade changed from maybe 2.75 to a 2.5. And I watched it again this morning on mute. If I were to rate this match on mute, it'd be like a 2, maybe a 1.5.
Mhm.
It was not a good match. I'm just gonna come out and say it. It hurts me to say it. I'm a huge Tiffany fan. Um, I know somebody who listens to this podcast oftentimes says, "Hey, more of a gymnast, less of a professional wrestler, but in the right setting, she can have a really, really good match." She was in the right setting with Becky. She was in the right setting with Bayley, Roxanne. You know, individuals who me can be ring generals and can bring along somebody and really make the match look really, really good. And Tiffany is athletic enough and strong enough and good enough where she can carry her end of it in that scenario. This went off the rails really quick, and
Yep.
honestly, at times you felt like you were watching a developmental product. Like they didn't know where to run with each other. Um, Charlotte, I don't even want to accuse her of sandbagging, but there was the spot that towards the end of the match where she was trying to lift Charlotte up, Tiffany was, and then she like hit her in the back of the head to almost like wake her up. And then like she struggled, and Tiffany's very strong to lift her up because it's like Charlotte was like letting her weight sit back. Did the Death Valley driver, the front roll Death Valley driver into the prettiest moonsault ever. Um, Yeah, I'm just gonna be kind here. Tiffany won. That was the right call, as I predicted it should be, and that's the best thing I can say about the match is that the right person won.
Yeah.
That's it.
I I thought Mania was very lackluster leading up to that match. I tweeted, all right, as we say on the show, right? Steal we did we have a shirt, right?
Mhm.
Steal the show like Mercedes and Pam. And I was like, God, it's teed up for Charlotte to say she had the best match of the night. I mean, it's right there. And from a crowd perspective, like we always say, mute the crowd. Crowd is part of it. Their match was the first match to get full crowd investment, so I will give
Mhm.
them that. Tiffany was extremely over, and Charlotte was extreme. Charlotte was the biggest heel of the night, besides maybe Dana White being showed on the screen. Those were the two loudest sets of boos. Um, I I don't know why the match didn't work as much as it didn't work, and hear me out. We need more evidence to figure out what it is. So I don't want to say it's this or it's that or it's this. Um, Becky and Bayley and Roxanne have all had good matches with Tiffany. That being said, none of those were on major cards. Okay. And this is where you maybe have left Tiffany to
Do you
not like
count
me.
the Becky? Do you count the Becky match because it was a main event on a pay-per-view?
Yeah, but that was in Bakersfield, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm saying like Tiffany hasn't wrestled on like Royal Rumble. right?
Okay,
She didn't
gotcha.
she didn't wrestle on Elimination Chamber, and um, Reham, I think is how you say her name, Cosmic Angels on X, account that I follow and interact with. Big Joshi wrestling fan, and Mercedes fan. She her her theory is that Tiffany's not getting enough exposure on PLEs because Triple H has this five
Hmm.
match thing he likes to do, and her first big singles match as champion is here on WrestleMania, and she just doesn't have the reps in front of a crowd like that with that much pressure. Could be one of the reasons. Um, it also could be looked at like Charlotte has lost the step. Some of the ring rope running and stuff like that was just sloppier than usual. And we have a lot to say about Charlotte not always putting her best foot forward, but she's never not put her best foot forward at WrestleMania. And don't get us wrong, the match wasn't good. She tried her ass off yesterday. She wasn't trying for a bad match. She might have at the end, the sandbag thing, if it was there, it was a last petty moment. But for the 15 first minutes of the match, she was trying to have a match that the crowd cared about for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I don't like seeing people get busted up in a match when it's not on purpose. Tiffany got a welt on her forehead, chipped two of her front teeth, bleeding lip. Did she take a move wrong? Maybe.
I got it. I Zapruder filmed this match, so I know exactly where both of those things happened. So I'm
Okay,
going
the
to tell
well
you
was on the bulldog or on the natural selection, right?
off the top, right? Yeah. Instead of
Yeah,
Tiffany doing this, she did this. Like she hit her head. Like it was a
yeah.
knot. The chip tooth thing, I don't know. In hindsight, they might not have ever been able to avoid it given what the spot was. You can go back and watch it. When Tiffany does the prettiest moonsault ever, Charlotte puts up her knee, but she puts up the knee that has the brace. Tiffany caught
Oh,
her tooth on the brace and it flew off. That's how she chipped her tooth. The
the only way they would have
brace.
been able to avoid it would have been a different corner with a different brace with the other knee on the outside.
Exactly. So it's a spot that they probably in hindsight, it's too risky of a spot given that there's a knee brace that is clearly metal involved in this because metal is going to chip your tooth at that force. So um, that's where it happened for sure. I don't know if the lip is part of that package, but you can clearly, if you go back and watch it, and I don't know if you want to go back and watch this match, but if you go back and watch it, that's where it happened. And look, I have said this on this podcast for 2 months. The best thing Tiffany has for herself is she is over. That is, you can, the
Mega
wrestling,
over.
mega over. The wrestling stuff, all the other stuff that people want to nitpick about her, go for it. She's damn over.
Yeah.
And honestly, right now in WWE, there might be two women more over than her. One is for sure, which is Rhea Ripley. That is
Rhea. Yeah.
undeniable. The other one might be Io right now. Like Io is hot right now.
Right.
But I don't know if that's going to sustain. But she's like the darling right now. Like everybody, Io, Previous going crazy, which is great for me. I love Io, but take Io out of it and her moment. It might be just Rhea and maybe Liv Morgan, but I don't know. Like to me right now, it's Rhea and Tiffany because it sure ain't
Yeah.
Bianca. And Liv is, Liv maybe if with the right push, maybe depending on who returns tonight, we'll see how that sustains. But like, she's over, man. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, you can't take the belt off of her unless you're going to do it to build her back up even stronger because
Yeah.
she's so damn over.
Another thing I wanted to talk about on this match was the agenting of the match.
Hmm.
Um, Raj, I thought for sure that they had our pod tapped for a minute there, and that they were going to do the whole
Oh man.
Tiffany breaks Charlotte's bad leg off and beats her over the head with it and do a double turn, because they did it for about a minute. And that's where, besides just giving you props that they gave us a jump scare there for a second, because I was like, holy crap, it's happening. But that would have been more interesting than anything that they did. But they only did it for a minute. And then Charlotte countered and did a thrust kick off of the knee that she just had worked on for, beat on for a minute. And it kind of goes away immediately. And that's where I want to, whoever produced the match, it's like they came up with like 4 concepts of a story within a match and tried all of them instead of telling 1 or 2 stories within the match. And it's like they dabbled in, well, what if this was happening? And what if Charlotte's knee was, or what if Tiffany is too green? And what if it didn't have a cohesive beginning to end kind of story to it. And Tiffany focused on the knee like 11 minutes into the match, and then doesn't go after the knee like from the last 5 minutes of the match. It was just kind of all scattered. But yeah,
And
I for
then
a moment
and that
I did
produces the
the
bad
Leonardo
match.
DiCaprio meme pointing at the screen when they did it. I was like, they're about to do the thing. But
You know what? I think if Charlotte, I don't know, man. Like I come across as such a anti-Charlotte person, and I probably deserve it because I've been who I've been and I've said what I've said. But like you have always wanted to see a different character for Charlotte. The
I
you know
have
the she tries, but is she good enough anymore? Can she hang with the like that whole comeback? I'm not good enough. What's it going to take to get there? Type of character. I do think that watching this match, they considered this is just my opinion. The reason they did that 1 or 2 minutes of what I wanted it to be the whole match is I
they
think they wanted
considered
to
it.
see they wanted to see if the fans would at any point get behind Charlotte, even for a little bit. So they're like, okay, we have something for the future.
And they did. The fans, I felt like Charlotte got booed like crazy. I felt like when Tiffany really went at the knee, you hear the gasp in the crowd, and that is wrestling speak for like, oh, that's a little too much. And
Yeah.
if she would
So
have went further, I think it would have went down that path.
it's just how I am probably in the minority on this one. A lot of people, by the way, that's what this match should have been, and it would have been good. Tiffany's way too hot, and Charlotte's way too not babyface ready for this turn. Like,
I get that.
could this have worked with like I feel like if let's say you take Charlotte out and it's Bianca Belair going into it, Bianca's getting the booze, but Bianca is so good at winning people back that if Tiffany turned on Bianca mid-match that way, I think Bianca could have flipped the crowd. And I think they could have gone in that direction where Bianca became, I want to see her get her payback. People just don't like Charlotte. Like, I don't know what else to say about this. Like, I wanted this angle. I want this angle. I still think there's a version of Charlotte that can be a super baby face. I still believe in her to the point where, she ditches the robes, she gets rid of the Cody Rhodes pyro and all that stuff. And it's like the commentators almost talk about her like, yeah, she used to be good. But I don't know if Charlotte's this type of performer, but the booking of the eventual way Charlotte would have won to me would have been Eddie Guerrero, Brock Lesnar. Where
Yes.
Tiffany is like this super woman, this badass, beat her to a pulp, beat her with her leg, all that stuff. And then Charlotte like just scraped together that win so the crowd could get that aha, yay. But like, I guess for me, why I was so disappointed watching this match back 2 and 3 times is because we want to advocate for the equal opportunity of the women. Like, we're not asking WWE or AEW to give them more time than the men. We want equal, right? Equal, like, hey, give the mid card men, give the mid card women, give the Hall of Fame legend like Bayley the same treatment you give AJ Styles. Like that's what we're asking for, right?
Exactly.
My problem is them having a match like this. It takes a step back from the women getting the main event. Because you cannot watch that show last night and tell me that any business of main eventing over Reigns, Rollins, and Punk. If you watch the
No,
two
no,
matches, right?
no. Well,
You can't.
no. If that closes the show, now maybe it gets agented differently if it closes the show. Probably does, but that match closing the show would have been a disaster. Um, just like the Ronda Charlotte match wasn't great, and if it would have closed the show, it would have been a problem. Um, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. The fact that they put Mercedes and Bianca out there to close the show shows an otherworldly amount of earned trust that they had in Mercedes to general the
Mhm.
to lead the match, and an otherworldly amount of trust in Bianca that she really was a prodigy. That was her first singles pay-per-view match. So a lot of trust in both ladies to do it, because you can't you know, it's not fair. The men have stinkers all the time. So don't hear
No,
us
it's
wrong,
true.
people. The
Yeah,
men
yeah.
screw up all the time, but they own the spot. The men have bad main events all the time. The women have the luxury of being able to afford having a bad main event. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
it sucks. It sucks.
Exactly. Like if we're at that place where the women main event every year, they'll have bad matches, and it's like, well, okay, they had a bad match. We go on to next year. I think okay, you said something that's interesting. I think this whole thing with Tiffany has made me realize how great Bianca is, and I didn't realize it in the moment. Like I know now what she is, right? She's phenomenal, but like in her first big real spotlight match, which by the way was the main event, not the co-main event, not the other thing. It was the main event. She delivered, man. And but then you know what? People point to me like, you know what, Raja? In Bakersfield against Becky Lynch, Tiffany delivered. She
Yeah.
did deliver, and she didn't even win the match, but she delivered. So I can't say Tiffany isn't capable of it. But then I look at what the kind of match was. It was like, so then I think, should this match have just been no DQ? Should they have just let this match be a weapons match and
It
let
probably would have
them?
been no DQ if it was the main event. Something else that would have
Yeah.
made it flow different. Hey, real quick, sometimes WrestleMania main event night one gets a lesser um it's not as big of a deal because generally the biggest match does go on night two. I'm gonna throw some out there for all you internet trolls that say, the women main event in night one, Bianca and Sasha. I got something for you. Main eventing night one that year was significantly harder than main eventing night two. Way harder. It was the first live show back post COVID with a crowd,
Mhm.
and it rained and thunderstormed like crazy, and they were delayed for over an hour. And the degree of difficulty going out there and doing it first and having all that pressure to not have the first show go off the rails with all the elements and not all that going on. I hope that Mercedes and Bianca forever get to bask in that moment. That's why it won the ESPY, by the way. And the ESPY wasn't for women's, right? The
No,
ESPY
it was all a
was
wrestling. All
it
a
was all
wrestling.
of wrestling. So it beat the night two main event. Thank you very much from that Mania. So that one will always go down in history as one of the most clutch matches ever to deliver. I don't know that there's five matches in wrestling history that had more riding on it with a higher degree of difficulty than that
Mhm.
particular match. It's up there for sure, because now I'd like to say that they nailed it and there have been a bunch of women's main events since, but unfortunately that part was out of their control.
So I got to shout out my friend Samantha and my friend Erica, not my ex-wife, but my other friend Erica. They actually went to that Mania. They're not wrestling fans, by the way. So I want to point this out. They went to that Mania because it was cheaper to see Bad Bunny in person at WrestleMania than it was
I
to
remember.
actually go to see his concert. And I asked them, I said, hey, man, how was it history? How was the history? You got to see the two first women main event, all that stuff. They're like, we had to leave. And I said, what do you mean you had to leave? They're like, a certain segment of Tampa Bay transportation buses said that by 11 o'clock Eastern, if you don't, or midnight, whatever the time was, if you don't get to the parking lot, the bus will not come back. So now you have all these outside travel people who are in Tampa and they don't know the city, and they're like, wait, if you don't come out to the parking lot for this bus, we're not going to get a ride back. And you know what Uber prices are like in those type of events. So they told me that a lot of people did leave before Bianca Sasha, not because they didn't want to see the match, but because they had no choice. Like,
Right.
it was a city mandate. So for all the trolls who also said, well, a lot of people left before Bianca and Sasha, they had no choice. And that's the other part of the pressure that people don't talk about, which is these two women have worked their whole life or their whole careers for this spot. And to see people as you're getting ready in the back to come out leaving, that's disheartening too. But they still went out there and for the crowd that was there, killed it. And so as we wrap up our part one of the two-part extravaganza, um, before we wrap, do you want to change your prediction for the women's triple threat, which will be opening WrestleMania? It will be opening WrestleMania.
Who did I even pick last week?
No,
Bianca, right?
you picked Bianca, and honestly, I'm starting to think I should change my pick to pick Bianca, but I'm still
I'm
going to stick with Io.
I'm gonna stick with Bianca. I will change my pick on the other match though.
Okay, you're going to pick Lyra and the mystery partner?
Yeah, and so we started with it and we'll end with it. Hey WWE, why don't we just go piss off all the Bayley fans day one? And guess what? If it's Becky, a match that Liv Morgan absolutely should be winning at WrestleMania turns into a match that she's going to lose. And now you got all the Liv Morgan fans pissed off too. Because Becky has turned, if it's Becky, and I will talk about this in episode 2 if it is, I mean, this is everything that she ever accused Charlotte Flair of being. What's about to go down tonight if it goes down that way.
Okay, I I predicted it's Becky, so I'm going to stick to my prediction. If it isn't Becky, that I don't know if that might even be worse.
Uh I don't know how you kick. Yeah, I don't know how you kick Bayley off the card unless it's someone like. Could it be
There's
a feel
two.
good moment if it's Nikki Bella?
Nikki Bella would never, ever, ever let them kick Bayley off the card for her. She's Nikki Bella.
Yeah, you're
She,
right. No, you're
she,
right.
she's,
It's not
she,
Nikki.
yeah, like because Nikki Bella is a big enough name and has enough money in her bank account that she doesn't need WWE. Like she's fine.
Yeah,
And honestly, she could always go to the other wrestling promotions. You go to AEW and I mean, I personally, if you want to make women's wrestling bigger, I would have preferred Nikki Garcia to go to AEW. But okay, so let's say it's Alexa Bliss. The only other person it could be is Alexa Bliss, right?
yeah.
I know Alexa Bliss. I always come across as such a big supporter of her, and I am. And I've met her in person, so that's gonna sway my opinion a little bit. I feel like Alexa has a little bit more character than to allow that to happen to. Like I feel like Alexa wouldn't be excited about taking Bayley's spot. I don't know why, because I know they've always, at least on screen, had a beef, but I don't know. Like, I feel like Alexa has more moral compass than that. Like, I feel like she would be like, nah, I'm good. Like, I don't, you just re-sign me. I'm making a lot of money. I have my own money. Nah, I'm fine. Like, to me, I get the Becky part of this for two reasons. One, Liv is the one who retired her, quote unquote, retired her. So it has to almost be Becky because that's the perfect foil for Liv Morgan. But to get here the way they got there is my problem. They
Yeah.
could have got here without doing anything to Bayley. Bayley didn't have to be involved in this story. They
And
could have got
that's the
here.
part we'll expand on in episode
Yeah,
2 is
if it's Becky.
Becky supposedly has all this sway. Why doesn't she use it for good? And this is not the first scenario. If this goes down this way,
We'll
she
have
needs to
to
be the one who can get away with saying, that's bullshit. That's bad. Let's do it a different way. That doesn't work for me,
we
brother.
we have to have an honest Rebecca Quinn conversation if Becky Lynch, the character, is the mystery partner.
And they come in and beat Liv Morgan. Yeah,
And
we
they
will
come
have
in
an
and be,
honest
we
conversation.
have to have an honest Rebecca Quinn conversation. Rebecca Quinn Martinez, because she is the wife of Seth Rollins, who is Colby Martinez. So
Lopez.
Lopez, sorry.
I was like, she married
Apologize.
Bayley?
No, right. You're right. Colby Lopez. So we will have to have that honest Rebecca Quinn Lopez conversation because it does lead to some other things that have been reported that we have never talked about that I might or might not know the true story on, and I will expand upon it then. So on that note, enjoy Rev Pro, Mercedes versus Kanji. The event starts in 25 minutes from when we record, which is 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. Support it, watch it, and we will review it on part 2. All right, everybody. Talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.